Greetings and welcome to this edition of Notable African American Educators in the Richmond Metropolitan Area as the Evidence Syphax School of Education celebrates Black History Month. I'm your host, Michelle McQueen Williams, and today I have with me two notable educators who have to also be alum of our university. Please welcome Dr. Omega Wilson and Mr. Bill Parker, my friends and colleagues. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Great. Doing great. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to see you all. Hey, Omega, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose education as a career.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me slash us on here. Really, really appreciate it. So I'm a native of Farmville, Virginia. Actually, I grew up in Buffalo, but then we moved down to Farmville when I was in middle school. Matriculated at BUU, home of the Panthers. Graduated from Virginia Union in '89 and earned my master's from VCU in administration and supervision, and my doctorate a little later on in 2012, I think it was, from Virginia Tech in educational leadership and policy studies. But then I went on to be a teacher in Caroline County, taught in Caroline County for 2 years, Goochland Public Schools for 2 years, and then Henrico County Public Schools. So I taught at Hermitage High School for 10 years and then became assistant principal at the only alternative high school in the county. At that time, it was Virginia Randolph Community High School. Then I was principal of Mount Vernon Middle School, one of the two alternative middle schools in the county. Then I went back home to Hermitage High School to be principal for 5 years, which I love. That was the best job of my entire life. Loved it, loved it, loved it. 5 years later, I became director of high schools, where I was overseeing the 10 high schools in Henrico. And then I was blessed to serve as vice president of operations for a dropout recovery program. And I guess I should say in 2014, I founded Innovative Strategies Consultant, which is an educational consulting company that I have now. And I think that's about all. But you asked me why education? And it's crazy that you asked that question. My mom is a retired educator. My dad, he's a retired professor. I come from a family of educators, but the entire time I was in college at Union, my mom told me, make sure you take some education courses. And of course, know-it-all, didn't take any education courses. And I don't even know if you know this, Dr. McQueen. But when I graduated, I thought that I was gonna be an anchor woman at channel 6, 8, or 12. How I thought they were gonna call little old me and find out about me, Lisa Schaffner, Gwen Williams. I don't know how I thought they were gonna find me. But I did not take education courses. So I went back home to Farmville and kind of stumbled in education. I became a board sub, and one thing led to the other. But I kind of stumbled my way into education and stumbled into administration as well.
And we are so glad you did. We're so glad that you did. And listen, our trajectories are so similar. It's so amazing to me. And we were here together, so that's really fun. All right, Bill, what about you?
Well, I grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C., a project area called Berry Farms. And my dad hit the number and we moved to Parkland, another little level up of projects. I went through the school system there, went to high school, and I was an athlete there. I was all city in basketball and all metro in basketball. Was very fortunate and blessed to get a scholarship to Virginia Union University under the legendary Tricky Tom, who saw something in me and gave me an opportunity that I'm always eternally grateful to him. Spent my 4 years at Union, graduated in '75, and went back home to DC and put my application in and couldn't get a job. And believe it or not, and this is just strange during this time frame, my second application was to the Capitol Police in Washington, D.C. So glad I didn't do that. Didn't get a call there. But what influenced me greatly in to go toward education was a high school coach, Cleo Davis. He took me under his wing, and I tell you, he loved me up. He caught me at a time when I was on that fence, could have gone either way. And He pulled me, he encouraged me, he poured into me, he invested in me. And I tell you, it was without a doubt, I knew I was going into education. When I went to Union, Union didn't have um, an opportunity for me to go into coaching per se, but they had elementary ed. So I started there and I got my degree in elementary education at Union. Uh, got my first job at Henderson Middle School,
Mhm.
where Wilbur Jenkins was the principal, new principal at that time. Didn't know me at all, never met me. School had already gotten started. I was in DC, and 3 weeks into school, they had an overflow of kids coming in for an 8th grade, and they needed to hire 4 more new teachers. And he called me at home in DC and offered me a job. Sight unseen, offered me a job. And I caught the next thing smoking to Richmond. And I had spent 16 years at Henderson, 10 years as a teacher, 6 years as an assistant principal. Went to Henrico County as assistant principal at Henrico High School, and to Highland Springs, where I met Dr. Michelle McQueen Williams. She was an English teacher there at the time. My first principalship was at Virginia Randolph Community High School. It was not on my radar. It was not a part of my 5-year plan, but it was the best thing that ever happened.
Wow.
It was a small school, about 340 students, felt like 680 students at time. But I learned to lead a school, learn to become a principal, learn to establish a vision, and to operate and move people and change some of the stinking thinking that took place.
Mhm.
And I was just fortunate to be there as I cut my teeth as a principal. 2 weeks before school started with teachers, I got a call from the superintendent to go to Henrico High School. And at that time, they were not accredited, and we were able to start. And in the first year, we became accredited. We didn't just creep by those scores, we soared by and did a phenomenal job. The team did all the way around. So I've been very fortunate in my career. I could not have written a better script
Mm.
about my career and my love for education and working with young people and with staff members to make a difference in the lives of young people.
Mhm.
That is
I also work with the Challenge U Dropout Recovery Program. I was vice president of community development, and I also went down to Mooresville um, Greater School District in North Carolina. I was executive director of secondary schools and CTE.
his plans are not our plans, right? A lot of times
That's right.
that's the way it
Yeah,
is. We have our own
always,
plans, but he's got
always,
his own.
always.
He's got his own
Yeah,
plans, and I
yeah.
am so glad. And I know
Mhm.
thousands of children are too, that you went the way you did. You guys have made a great impact. So tell us a little bit about your philosophy of education and how your philosophy has been shaped by your experiences as an African American educator.
Um, well, it begins with a high regard, love, and a strong belief in young people that we serve. It is about pushing and lifting, encouraging and expecting, pouring and investing, and transforming these lives that matter. Love, care, and kindness are at the root of this noble profession.
Mhm.
In my years of education, this moral obligation has much to do with what I value. And value is an acronym, VAL. UE, V is for vision. You have to have a strong vision for your school and for young people, believe in their learning potential, and believe that your staff can teach them at higher levels as well. And you have to give kids a reputation to uphold, to help them become future ready. That's part of that vision. V is also about voices. You have to listen to your stakeholders, your students, your teachers, your parents, your community leaders, your business partners, to really marshal the resources that are needed for support of the school. It's important in A, the 5A treatment. John Maxwell talks about a 3 triple A treatment. I included a 5A one of attention, acceptance, appreciation, affirmation, and accountability. That's so important in building a school and having the connection and building relationships. The L is about love. It has to be a center of your work, center of your lesson plans, of your teaching, of your assessments. Everything has to be and centered that of love. It's about leadership, and leadership is about influencing people. And again, raising that level of expectation for our students. Learning is the other L, that we all are learners. Even though we are leaders in the building, we still are continuing to learn, and learning is about getting results for young people. The U in value is that of use of data and also unwavering belief in young people. The E is for expectation, high expectations. What we believe in young people is about excellence, and that process of becoming is about extra help opportunities when kids are struggling. And also it's about encouraging the heart with young people. We must be a school community standing on these values, inspired and committed to make a difference in the lives of the young people that we serve, creating positive change and helping them to become future ready. That's a part of my educational philosophy.
That's a sound
Good
philosophy.
Lord.
That's sound doctrine, sir.
Sound.
Sound doctrine.
Woo.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm sitting down. I'm listening. Come on,
I'm
Megan.
soaking it all up.
Yeah,
I'm
that's how
soaking
we're
it
learning.
all up. I mean, my goodness, yes, this is a teachable moment right here. I
It
mean,
is
I'm
that.
blessed to be this, honestly, of both of my mentors. So I'm learning. I'm like a sponge, just soaking it up and gleaning from you two. But I think Mr. Parker nailed it. In reference to my philosophy of education, I think first and foremost, you've heard the cliche before, but I really am a firm believer in the phrase that we've heard, that every child can learn. And in order for every single child to learn, it starts with belief, belief in the child, belief in yourself, first of all, because sometimes, as educators, as adults, we come with some different issues, we come with some different baggage, but we have a tendency to put that on the kids. So you have to remove all of that stuff and just cleanse your mind, go in and knowing that the game is set in the favor of the kids. The glass is half full at all times for the kids. And you have to help them understand that they can be successful in school. They can be successful in life in general. So not only belief, but as Mr. Parker said, a great deal of leading by example and in education is displaying love and caring. You're not going to be a successful educator, I don't believe, without belief, love, and care, and understanding that, on this journey called education, it's going to be hard work, but it's also going to be heart work as well.
That's
So
right.
you have to make sure, you're incorporating, and I learned that from you all, you've got to make sure you're incorporating all of that with your philosophy. And like I said, last, certainly not least, just being able to afford the children the opportunity to learn and believe in them, and not put them down or anything like that, but just let them know that we believe in you.
Well, listen, having walked alongside both of you in one capacity or another, I know what you're saying is true. I can feel it through the virtual airways. And, we've had some challenges in education recently, and then even when we were in the field as practitioners in the building, on the building level. But tell us, what are some of the most significant challenges you faced in your career as an African-American leader? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Me,
We'll start with you. Yeah, start with you.
I think you nailed it. You said being African-American can be a challenge in itself, number one. And then number two, being a woman, a female.
Oh, yeah.
In leadership, you see a ton of males. And as women, and then as Black women, I'm gonna be frank and tell you, we have to work equally as hard. So just because John Doe may have this amount of responsibilities and duties, and he very well may not complete every last one of them, we have to complete those tasks and duties and some more. So it's almost like, as being a Black woman or being a female and African-American, you have to work quadruple time to get what you want out of this life. And you can't expect somebody just to come along and tag you or tap you and just, hand anything to you. That's one of the major challenges. I would say you have to work hard, very hard, which I don't mind doing. And I overcame that because that's my foundation. My parents always taught me, to have faith, number one, but number two, do the work and don't expect anybody to hand anything to you. Because I'm not going to be that person, Dr. McQueen, to sit there and say, they didn't hire me because I can't get it because. No, if you didn't hire me because, that's your loss, not mine. I'm going on to the next thing, and have you to figure that thing out on your own.
Listen,
but
you
the
bring
way I overcame it, ma'am, say it again.
Yeah, I said I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing.
Yeah, the way to overcome it is I continue to chase my dreams and goals regardless of whatever challenges I'm faced. I'm not going to let anything stop me. And I've always been this way, that. I've always been kind of on strong-willed, strong-headed side. But yeah, you're often questioned in that position. You're often doubted when you're an African-American, number one. When you're a female, number two, you're often doubted. And your voice is not always heard. You might be coming in third or fourth place, if you will. There's some other people in front of you. You're not always called upon. But oftentimes you're overlooked. That's a challenge, being a Black woman.
It certainly is. And Omega, I just want to agree with you on that. I remember us, we trained folks that got jobs before we did. We were working, staying all day, getting there early, staying late, and somebody who just comes on board, go and open up a brand new school. I'm not bitter. But anyway, Bill,
what we did. A tenth of what we did.
Bill, what say you to this whole notion of challenges being an African American?
Well, I think the biggest, I've worked in challenge schools, at promise schools, where was a great deal of potential. And what was underlining and was the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room was that of the soft bigotry of low expectation for our young people. That was, in many cases, prevalent, or you had clusters of it within the building that really prevented you from turning the wheels and making certain things happen. So we had to go in and again change some of that stinking thinking through research-based information, through courageous conversations, through staff development, and again, do everything on behalf of young people in love. So you had to address certain things with your staff to make sure we are operating as a team going forward, because the work gets done through a team. The hard work gets done through a team. I certainly couldn't do it alone. Matter of fact, my first time meeting the staff at Henrico, I had a visual experience where I had a little red wagon, and the red wagon had bricks in it, and each brick represented a huge responsibility for the school: testing, classroom management, discipline, coming accredited, technology, all that, big bricks in it. And I took my little string, my little green string, and tied it to the handle of the red wagon, and I tried to pull it, and I couldn't do it. So I had to invite everybody that was a part of the team, the teachers, the custodian, everybody had to take their string and tied it to that handle. And once that was done, I could easily move that wagon. So it's developing that team to make it happen for the entire school. But you start with a coalition of believers, and you start there, and then you start to permeate your words, your actions, start to permeate and make a difference, and start to knock down some of those barriers that were there preventing us from going forward with that. But the soft bigotry of low expectations was that issue that caused many schools right now to not move forward.
I'm so glad. I was trying to think of what you said. I was trying to think of the soft bigotry of low expectation. I said, I've got to remember that because that is so powerful, the soft bigotry of but if we believe, as you said, if you believe, right, we can face any challenge. It's all about belief. But you know what, when you mentioned the soft bigotry of low expectations, that leads to my next question. You know, how do we incorporate conversations in the classroom about cultural competency and in the classroom and with our colleagues as we seek to address some of that soft bigotry that you mentioned?
I love this. I'll jump in if you don't mind. I think one of the major things that you have to do is, first of all, you have to be prepared to have transparent conversations. And in real talk, you have to have real talk. That's what you have to do. You can't come in here sugarcoating this thing. You can't come in here tiptoeing with it. You can't come in sideways. You have to address the elephants that are in the room. Notice I said with an S, elephants, because all too many times when it comes to talking about cultural barriers, when it comes to talking about race, gender, inequalities, racism, I think I said racism, when you're talking about all of that, people want to start whispering about it. Well, this is something that's real. And you have to address it, be it during professional development. You have to actually address it with the students, and I'll just say, I hope it's okay to say, I'm at home, so I know it's okay to say, just like January 6th, I believe that was the date when the monkeys climbed the wall up at the Capitol. Okay, that's a teachable moment. That's history. That's something that, history classes especially should have been discussing. But I understand, I've talked to several educators who said their principals told them, don't turn on the TV, don't discuss it. That's shameful. That's shameful and disgraceful. That was a historical moment, a teachable moment. That's going to be in their grandchildren's history books, maybe, or somewhere online or something. I don't know if they'll have books later on or whatever. Yeah. But the bottom line, to answer your question, you have to address it. And then you have to, when you're addressing it with PDs and professional developments, and you're having workshops about it to try to get people to heal from these situations and try to get people to understand and to be able to relate, you have to bring in people who have proven track records. Don't bring in Bill Parker to do some type of PD and he doesn't know it, never worked with different cultures and doesn't even understand how to work with diverse populations. That's a waste of money, and that's just a box that you check. So you have to bring in people like Bill Parker, like Dr. Michelle McQueen-Williams, who have proven track records, who can really educate you and take you and your division to the next level. I hope I answered that question, because I think I got a little riled up.
Listen, I think you said don't turn a blind eye. Meet that elephant that's in the room. And based on recent events, we got to do better with that. Bill?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I believe first and foremost that school principals and leaders are the standard bearers and the guardians of the process. So in so doing, I was the fifth principal of Henrico in 8 years. And I can remember a teacher saying, well, he's just another teacher, another principal coming in. But what had to change was a sense of not just what we said, but what we did by way of behavior. Lesson plans and viewing that and seeing if we are incorporating those best practices was a start with the conversation. Going into our classrooms and conducting observations, and then having post-conferences and talking about what they did well and what are areas of growth. That helps change some of the movement in school. PD, as Dr. Wilson has shared. And when you also look at the data pieces and you can compare the data from one teacher and another in the same department, and we have to ask the question, why is this person scores are stronger than this teacher?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's come up with solutions. Let's learn from one another, and let's deal with some of the behavior that is happening in class that's contrary to what is in the student's behalf with that. I believe it, Dr. Wilson just alluded to it, you have to have some courage to be able to lead a school and make a difference,
Yeah.
to nudge things. You know, I could ask the question to the staff, how many of you all believe all kids can learn? Every hand will go up.
Yeah.
But then there is a but in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Every kid can learn, but they live in this zip code, but they're Black, or but their daddy is this, but their mama is that. We have to help teachers get the but out the way so they can move and do things on behalf of young people based on where they are. And that's where the love comes in.
Yeah, I agree with you. And data can drive those conversations. You look at your data, that's a great PD right there, because that'll tell you which subgroup is thriving, and which subgroup is striving, and which subgroup is just surviving. And so we've got to take time to make the data help us have those tough conversations about cultural competency, as it were. And you know, our time is drawing now. I could talk to y'all all afternoon, but I just want to get a couple more. I'm sorry, Bill. I just want to get a couple more questions in real quick with, you know, how can we directly respond to the needs of our African-American students during this COVID crisis? You know, our kids are struggling in this virtual environment. What can we do to help our, not just kids in color, but, you know, it's Black History Month, so we're going to talk specifically about them. What can we do to help our kids during this time?
Well, I think several things. Certainly take time to listen to young people, to connect and learn from our students, provide a lot of an overabundance of encouragement and support, express that kindness and care. Send videos to students basically of you saying how much the support you offer them. Validate their feelings. Thank them for sharing, and move away from suggesting that their feelings don't matter with that, or there's another way. The use of discussion boards where kids can discuss or post their thoughts and feelings. Use breakout sessions sometimes so kids can talk and you can have a better moment so you can share and build connections. Encourage journal writing with that, where kids can certainly express their feelings. School systems certainly can continue with the early morning meals, the lunches that they provide and send out. That's important, especially when you have so many families that are just in need, and where they need this kind of support in terms of that. COVID has been with us for now, what, 12 months? So there is mental health issues, and that we have to be in tune with, and that we have to dispatch oftentimes our counselors and our social workers and our school psychologists to be in tune and be of support to students and provide some kind of uplift, and even refer them to other agencies if need be with that. This is a tough time. We've never experienced this before, but I know this, that through thoughtful planning and also collectivity in terms of bringing folks together and a sense of love being at the middle, a lot of things can get done on behalf of young people.
Thank you.
That was excellent. And I'll just add, you know, it is a very tough time right now. And I was talking to one of Mr. Parker's frat brothers right before this meeting. I mean, not just about, we were talking about African-American students, and we took it to another level, talking about students who are in apartments and projects. You know, it's really, really tough right now. And I just encourage and urge everyone to find some way to support schools at this time, you know, and I think this is a high time for the community to become involved, because for years we've been talking about what the school ain't doing, but now it's a good time for everybody to get involved and help. Number one, not just with fraternities, not just with sororities, not just with organizations or companies or churches, but it's a great time to be a mentor, because sometimes you got to realize kids just need somebody to pick up the phone and say, hey, how are you doing? I miss you. I really miss you in school, but it's going to be okay. I just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you, you know. And to some of the educators, sometimes I've heard it even during this time, where educators are just driving by their students' houses just to blow the horn and wave at them. And that makes those kids' day. It makes their day. but I just personally think that, you know, a lot of one-to-one needs to take place right now, be it virtual or in the street or in the front yard or whatever it may be. But a lot of kids need just to hear, they need a body. You
Yeah.
have to realize, you know, and it's not just kids understand that, but faculty and staff as well.
Yeah.
So principal, senior leadership, I'm hoping that they're checking in on their faculty and staff as well, because you got to realize we're dealing now with, I mean, not just now, but we've been dealing with this all along with homelessness. You got people who are hungry. You have people who have lost jobs. You have people who, you know, may have the one-to-one laptop, but their daddy or granddaddy or mama or sister, somebody took the laptop, sold it for drugs or whatever it may be. And somebody may be living out of a car at McDonald's. So I think right now, outside of the mentoring, give a little bit more grace as well, you know, to yourselves as well, not just to the students, faculty, and staff, but to yourselves. Everybody be gentle on yourselves right now. Makes sense.
It certainly is a time for grace and a time for each one to reach one, especially with kids who are not even getting online. Somebody pick up the phone and find out why the baby's not online. Is it a hotspot issue? Do they have a hotspot? It's just, you know, it's not rocket science. And so I do thank you for those comments. So we're down to the last question. What advice do you have for educators of color right now that are doing this tough work?
Do it. Do the tough work for the right reason. Like Michelle, Dr. McQueen used an analogy like your hair is on fire. Do it like your hair is on fire, because the kids need you. We need strong educators in this thing. And that, like, as you know, this thing is not for the faint at heart, but if you're in it, be in it to win it and be in it to make change. This is what you got to realize. Educators, you are creating masterpieces. And all too well, too many times, people fail to realize, educators fail to realize the impact that they have on children, be it positive or negative. You are impacting somebody's life for the rest of their life. For the rest of their life, you're impacting them. So do it with fidelity. Just do it with discipline. Just do it. And don't question yourself. Don't even doubt, but hook up with a mentor. You got 3 strong ones right here to help you if you're trying to go on an administrative journey or something like that. Connect. Get with somebody whose shoulders you can stand on, like Dr. Parker and Dr. Michelle McQueen Williams allowed me to stand on daily. I'm gonna tell you like it is. These are my 2 mentors, and I'm blessed to be able to have somebody like these 2 people who I can bounce ideas off of, or just to help guide me. So make sure you're connected with someone and just do it. Don't be afraid. Just do it. Just do it. Do it.
The last little research that I read was that 80% of our teachers in the school system across the country are white.
Uh-oh.
And when we look now at the larger portions of minority students, Black and Hispanics, they need to see more models or individuals who look like them, who care. Because the research also finds that when they have individuals who look like them, they stretch out more, they do more, they reach back more, they extend themselves more to those students who look like them. And I can only look back at Mr. Cleo Davis, my high school coach and my teacher, who poured into me and how he made a difference in changing my trajectory. So students now need more individuals of color to work with them, to understand their background, not use that as a crutch, but use it as a springboard in terms of doing some extraordinary things for their future with that. It's a wonderful profession. I tell you, before the COVID, I don't care where I went in Richmond, that I would go into a mall or a store and a former student will say, "Hey, that's Mr. Parker." That is so rewarding, because if they didn't like you, they would have walked across the street. They introduce you to their wives, to kids, and that is such a rich position. My brother-in-law is a CPA, and we were out together, and the kids came up to me and just warmed my heart and just blessed me. And he said, man, I'm a CPA. I don't get that. I said, I
Aw.
get that off times when I go out. And I'm
Mhm.
just blessed. Many of the teachers and principals that I know, they get that same kind of love, and it's just so rewarding, and it's so rich, and it's so needed now for them to see us in the community as well.
Yes.
So I encourage persons who are at Virginia Union who are considering a career. You can't select a more noble career than in education, working with young people.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. And you know, it's so challenging now with the job market being the way it is to recruit and retain teachers of color and leaders of color. So I'll welcome any ideas you all have, because I know you've got a lot of them as to how we can get them and how we can keep them. Because as you said, Bill, it is a way of life. We touch eternity. And so I'm so thankful that you
Yes, we do.
join me today on these hallowed grounds and dear old walls, even though it's virtual. We thank you for being with us and for sharing your hearts with us, because as
Thank
the
you for having me.
background says, we're stronger together. Hey guys,
Yeah.
love y'all, and thank
Yes.
y'all for taking the time to share Black
Love you
History
back.
Month with the Evelyn Syphax School of Education. Be blessed.
Love you too.
All right. Thank you for the invite. You know we had to do that.
That's it.